My second book, which I've chosen, is the book about the subtle art of not giving F by Mark Manson. Why I've chosen this book? Because it was very interesting for me to read this book because the name was very interesting. I think the lucky mascot of this bestseller is the name of this book. An author says that the self-help book for people who hate self-help books. The subtle art of not giving F is all about self-improvement, not through avoiding problems or always being happy, but rather through engaging and improving upon problems and learning to accept the occasional unhappinesses. So when I read this book, in each chapter you have to stop and rethink what you're reading. It's very important to get what an author about to say, and also I get some notes, informal notes for myself, and are for as quotes for myself. So generally, what teaches this book about? The first one is start loving the process itself. Being in love with the results can give you sorrow. He thinks that if you work for a result, you can get your result, but after getting the result, you can be in, you can feel emptiness in yourself. It's not something that you want. And take responsibility of yourself. The second one, complaining and crying about problems make you just cry baby. And it's very crucial moment. And what are the real problems? When we don't have real problems, even small inconveniences look like serious problems to us. And forget who you are. You will keep growing if you will forget who you are. Otherwise, you don't even have a chance to improve yourself. And also, the key part of this book is I can say that some quotes giving a knowledge about yourself, about self-improvement. So he says that everyone wants to believe that the secret to a good life is to have a nicer job or better car or prettier girlfriend. But the key to good life is not giving importance about more, not giving an F about more. It's giving a F about less, giving F about only what is true and immediate and important. We are not longer facing a material crisis in our modern life. We have plenty of resources, for example, TVs and clothes and goods that we don't need. The problem we face is existential and spiritual. We have so much stuff and so many opportunities that we don't know what to give a F about anymore. So, because there is an infinite amount of things that we can now see or know, there are also an infinite number of ways we can discover that we don't measure, that we are not good enough, that things are not as great as they could be. The desire for a more positive experience is itself a negative experience, he says, and paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience. And you have to digest it by just understanding what he's talking about, what he wants to tell about it in this book. And pursuing something only reinforces that you like it in the first place. Accepting your experience of life as being great and wonderful is the single greatest thing you can do for your happiness. And also in the book, he's taking a quotes by other people, other authors. For example, by Albert Camus. Generally, he's taking his quote like, "You will never be happy if you continue to search what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of your life." So he's saying that you don't have to pursue your life purpose. You have to just live, improve yourself, improve yourself. So that's a crucial part. And uh, and also about focus, he's saying that learning how to focus and prioritize your thoughts effectively based on finally honed personal values is perhaps the greatest and the most important struggle in life. And also he covers the topics about concerning problems and what is the general problem is and what is the core of the problem. Uh, in his book, he says that when a person has no problems, the mind automatically finds a way to invent some problems. Uh, and the author says that he, I think what most people, especially educated people, pampered middle class white people, consider life problems are really just side effects of not having anything more important to worry about. Finding something important and meaningful in your life is perhaps the most productive use of your time and energy. It's okay for things to suck some of the time. Uh, Practical enlightenments is the act of becoming comfortable with the idea that some suffering is always inevitable. Uh, and also, there is no value in suffering when it's done without purpose. Uh, and also, he says that don't hope for a life without problems. Problems are everywhere, so hope for a life with the good problems. He's saying about problems. He's saying that problems never stop; they merely get exchanged or upgraded as you grow up, as you develop yourself. Happiness is found in solving problems, not avoiding them. What this is the core of happiness, where you can find happiness. The true happiness occurs only when you find the problems you enjoy having and enjoying solving. And also, happiness is wanting the problems you have and wanting to solve them. To be inspired enough to solve these problems and being happy. And emotions are simply biological signal designed to nudge you in the direction of beneficial change. Uh, Negative emotions from the problems or not solving the problems are a sign that something is going unaddressed. They are call to actions. The call actions. Positive emotions are the reward for taking the correct action. As solving the problem is giving you feedback, like positive emotion, you're changing your problem. You're focusing on other problem because you have solved one problem, and this gives you positive emotion. And we should question our emotions because they are not always right. You have to don't ask yourself what you want out of life, because it's easy to want success and fame and happiness and great something, but everybody wants those things. A much more interesting question to ask yourself is what kind of pain do I want? What you are willing to struggle for is greater determination of how our life turn out. You can't merely be in love with the result, because the result itself, everybody loves the result. You have to love the process. Uh, the climb to the top is never ending upward spiral with the new problems always surfacing and new processes that you must fall in love with. You are never allowed to stop climbing because the entire point is to love the climb. To climb. If you ever stop loving the climb, the results will never come. So And also, I have to point it out something about self-esteem, because everyone, I think, faces this problem about self-estimation. So he's very a big good definition for the self-estimation problems. He says that self-esteem by itself is overrated. It doesn't help to feel good about yourself unless you have a good reason for feeling that way. The struggle makes self-esteem useful, not the participation trophy. Your problems are not privileged in their severity of pain. You are not unique in your suffering. Everyone experiences these problems. Everyone experiences a problem about self-esteem, and it's like a relationship between you and your overrated problem. He's saying that every problem is overrated now. So he's saying that the more exposed we are to opposing viewpoints, the more we seem to get upset that those other viewpoints exist. This seems like a logical trend to me, because before the internet and our hyper-connection modern world, people didn't have as much likelihood of running into ideas that disagreed with their own. But today, we alternate ideas are far more likely to cross your radar screen. Most of us pretty average at most things we do, wherever it is. For example, as programming, as coding, as hobby, we are at the middle, average uh, level. Even if you're exceptional at one thing, for example, as in programming, or at some hobby, for example, tennis, chances are you're average or below average at most other things. So our lives today are filled with information from the extremes of the bell curve of human experience, the best of the best, worst of the worst, and most upsetting of the upsetting. We only see the most exceptional news stories because that's what drives revenue. This is a real problem when it comes to comparison, because you can only be exceptional in one thing and you are going to be below average in nearly everything else. That makes comparison a very dangerous game to play in self-estimation problem. One of the most pervasive narratives about uh, masculinity in our culture is that most valuable thing a man can attain uh, is worth sacrificing nearly anything to get it. People who are exceptional become that way by thinking they are average and focusing on improvement. You don't become exceptional because by believing you are exceptional. You have to get it out from this view. You're more uncomfortable with the answer, the more likely is to be true about being exceptional. And also, what concerns about problems, he's saying that problems are inevitable. The problems is alive in some cases, uh, but what they mean is flexible. We get to control what our problems mean to us, based on how we choose to think about them, and how we choose to measure them. The way we measure success influences how we view the problems we face. And these are just one part of the giving a problem, giving a knowledge about problem, giving a relationship connection between you and the problem, and why you have to choose, why you don't have to overrate your problems. Uh, and also he's giving a very important knowledge about topics like that, about life purpose, about happiness, about problems, about self-estimation, and what I cover is just one part of the book. So I think it's very necessary book for people who are facing with every day with problems, who have low self-estimation. And I think The Subtle Art of Not Giving F by Mark Manson is probably one of the first books I recommend it to anyone, preferably to those who's ever been depressed or felt low in life, because he's just like giving a theory, what is life, what is a problem, why you have why giving a definition what is a problem, why you're falling in depression, why you don't have to why you have to love yourself, why you have to love the process, not the result. And he's just exactly accurately giving a definition for everything in your life. So that's why I really like this book about, and I really recommend you for everyone to read it. And also the outpointing thing about the book is, uh, he's saying that it's not important to read this book, it's important to get an action. Get an action about your life, get an action about yourself, and don't have to stop in one peak of the problem. So everything is about your estimation of problem and the relationship between you and problem. So this is the ending part of my book review from The Subtle Art of Giving F by Mark Manson. And thank you for listening from me. And also I added one quote from the Mark Manson. He said that when most people set out to change their lives, they often focus on all external stuff. The reality is that changing life starts with changing the way you see everything in your life. He thinks that changing your world starts with internal changing, not external. So thanks for everyone to listening for me. That's the end of my book review of the technical part and also the self-help book. Goodbye.